Tonsley Park, 27 March 2008. The line stops. The last Mitsubishi 380 rolls off. 930 workers pack up. The gates close. 27 years earlier, on the same floor, an American with a $1 salary killed Australia's greatest engine. 302 horsepower, from a 6, faster than the Ford Falcon GTHO Phase 3. Faster than a Porsche 911S. Faster than a Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Tuned in Bologna on triple 45mm Weber carburettors by an Adelaide racing manager who spent 4 months in Italy. Designed at Tonsley, cast at Lonsdale. Beat every V8 in the country on the stopwatch. Made in Adelaide. Killed in Highland Park. Buried in Tokyo. $79.4 million. One boardroom decision, 6,000 kilometres away. The men who built it. The men who watched the gate padlock behind them. How does the fastest engine ever built in Australia die? Before we go any further, if you want to keep these stories alive, I've created a book with the complete Australian lost factories. The workers, the gates, the Australian made, all gone. The link is on the first line of the description. Back to the story. How does the fastest engine ever built in Australia die? Chapter 1. The engine Adelaide built. 1967. Not Detroit, not Highland Park, Tonsley Park, South Adelaide, the largest ground floor under one roof in the Southern Hemisphere, opened by Prime Minister Sir Robert Menzies on the 2nd of October 1964, 9¼ hectares of building space. Chief Engineer Walt McPherson walks into the engineering office with a brief from the Managing Director, David Brown. The brief is one sentence. Build us a new engine. The old Slant 6, carried over from Chrysler USA since 1960, is at the end of its life. The Australian market wants more power. The taxi fleets want more torque. The Charger program on the drafting board, still 2 years from launch, needs an engine that will define it. Detroit will not fund it. Detroit does not care about Australia's passenger car engine. Detroit's problem is trucks. Detroit's problem is emissions. Detroit's problem is Chevrolet. McPherson turns to a 34-year-old Brisbane engineer named Mike Stacey. Stacey has been at Chrysler Australia for 8 years. He has never designed an engine from a clean sheet. He is about to. Here's the kicker. The engine Stacey and McPherson design at Tonsley in 1967, 68 and 69, is a clean sheet inline 6, cast iron block, 7 main bearings. And, most importantly, a canted valve hemispherical combustion chamber head, a semi-Hemi. Adelaide's own design. Machined at the new Lonsdale engine plant, 20 kilometres south of Tonsley, opened November 1967. The engineering shop calls it, informally, the Hemi Six. The name sticks. 1970. The 245 cubic inch Hemi 6 debuts in the VG Valiant. 4 litres of Australian designed, Australian cast, Australian machined 6-cylinder. Sir Stirling Moss endorses the engine in the print launch campaign. Chrysler Australia takes out full-page advertisements in Wheels and Modern Motor. The copy reads, Sir Stirling drove it. Sir Stirling recommends it. Detroit files the launch report under Australian Project. Nobody at Highland Park realises what Adelaide has just built, because what Adelaide has just built is going to Bathurst. But first, it's going to Italy. Chapter 2. Building a Family, 1970 and 1971. The Hemi 6 goes into full production at the Lonsdale engine plant. The 245 debuts first in the VG Valiant. In 1971 comes the 215 3.5 litres for economy buyers, and the 265 4.3 litres for performance. 3 engines, 1 family, every Australian Valiant on the road. Then in August 1971, at a preview at the Chrysler dealership in Adelaide, the next generation of the Valiant arrives. The V8 Valiant Charger, a two-door fastback coupe, 152mm shorter in the wheelbase than the sedan, Coke bottle curbs. Bob Hubbich from Chrysler Detroit contributed to the design, but the engineering, the tuning and the launch. Pure Adelaide, David Brown had developed the car in such secrecy that virtually nobody outside his inner circle, not the Australian motoring press, not even Chrysler International, knew it existed. Wheels Magazine, Car of the Year, 1971. The advertising campaign was widely attributed to a young creative director named Fred Shepperson, who would later direct The Devil's Playground and The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith. The pitch was a campaign nobody had seen before. Don't sell the car, sell the gesture. Two fingers raised at the windscreen of a passing Charger. Hey Charger, the unbelievable can happen to you. Graham Blundell, the star of Alvin Purple, appeared in the campaign being mobbed by girls. Within 3 months, the V-salute was the most recognised hand signal in suburban Australia. From Logan to Elizabeth, from Bankstown to Fremantle. At traffic lights on Parramatta Road, on the Nepean Highway, on Anzac Highway 3 kilometres from the Tonsley Gate. On the assembly line at Tonsley, a 16-year-old apprentice walks through the gate for the first time. His name is Peter Angrave. Trade apprentice, 1970. Peter Angrave will still be at Tonsley 38 years later, when the gates close in 2008. In 2008, he will be Quality Assurance and Production Engineering Manager. He will have watched every Australian Valiant, every Charger, every Sigma, every Magna, every 380 come off the line. He is 16 years old, hanging Hemi orange seats into Chargers on the trim line. The Kangaroo 6 has arrived, and it is about to fly to Italy. Chapter 3. Bologna, early 1972. Chrysler Australia racing manager John Ellis boards a Qantas flight to London. In the cargo hold is a VG Pacer, engine code E38, the 3-carburettor 6-pack Hemi Six. Ellis lands at Heathrow. He drives the Pacer from London to Bologna, Italy. He arrives at the Weber factory in the industrial suburbs of Bologna in February. For the best part of 4 months, John Ellis works with Weber's engineers on a single problem. How do you make 3 45mm DCOE side draft carburettors designed for Ferrari V12 and Alfa Romeo touring cars feed 6 cylinders of an Adelaide-designed engine? At 7,000 RPM, without hesitation, without misfire, without flat spots, the answer is a cast aluminium manifold designed on Weber's floor, machined in Bologna, never sold in Europe. Genuine Day 1, Webers on the surviving cars still carry part numbers, ending 55, 55, 56. Ellis's. His daily commute in Bologna was 10 minutes, from a rented flat to the Weber works. Every morning he arrived with the previous day's dyno printout. Every evening he left with a new set of jet sizes to trial the next day. 4 months. Every workday. Every carburettor characteristic tuned by hand. A period Chrysler advertisement, one of the most famous automotive ads in Australian history, put the story on paper. The copy read, "We flew a car, a VG Pacer, driven by John Ellis from London to Bologna, over to the Weber factory in Italy. In fact, we flew it 12,000 miles to Italy and then tested it for 4,000 miles all over Italy." The photograph on the advertisement showed the manifold on a dyno stand. John Ellis comes home in June 1972. His baggage contains 3 sets of jets, 5 air correctors and a stack of dyno printouts from Bologna. The E49 program at Lonsdale is 1 week from production. Chapter 4. The Coronation, June 1972. Lonsdale Engine Plant. The first Charger, RTE49, comes off the assembly line. Hemi orange paint, vitamin C, hot mustard. Under the bonnet, a 265 cubic inch Hemi 6, 10.0:1 compression, balanced crankshaft, shot-peened connecting rods, high-load valve springs, a camshaft so aggressive the engine won't idle below 800 RPM, tuned length exhaust headers, and John Ellis's triple 45mm DCOE Webers on the Bologna manifold, feeding 6 cylinders like they were feeding 12. $3,975 on the showroom sticker. Borg-Warner Super T10 4-speed manual. D52 Sure Grip Limited slip differential. Sports Car World, October 1972. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 6.1 seconds. 0 to 100 miles per hour, 14.1 seconds. Quarter mile, 14.4 seconds at 98 miles per hour. Wheels Magazine, November 1972. The fastest accelerating car made in Australia. Read that again. The Ford Falcon GT HO Phase 3, 380 horsepower, 351 cubic inch Cleveland V8, needed 15.2 seconds to reach 100 miles per hour. The E49 did it in 14.1. An Australian straight six beat the American Vates in Adelaide on $3,975 on triple Webers tuned in Bologna by a racing manager who spent 4 months in Italy learning how 302 horsepower from a 6. Peter Angrave, now 18 years old, on the trim line hanging Hemi orange seats into charges. The Kangaroo 6 had arrived and it was about to be shot at. Chapter 5. Bullets on Wheels. Sunday, 25th of June, 1972, 10 days after John Ellis got back from Bologna. The Sun Herald newspaper, front page, Sydney edition. The headline, 160 miles per hour, supercars soon. The reporter, Evan Green, motoring journalist, international rally driver, Bathurst commentator for the 7 Network since the mid-1960s. Public trust rating, high. Green quoted the New South Wales Transport Minister, Milton Morris. Morris was a Liberal MP for Maitland, anti-aircraft gunner in the Volunteer Defence Corps, 1942 to 45, a man who had held a gun against a Japanese air raid. Morris's phrase, the phrase that stuck, was 3 words: bullets on wheels. He said the Charger RTE49, the Ford Falcon GTHO Phase 4, and the Holden Phi 8 Torana XU1 had no place on Australian roads. He would seek a national ban 4 days later, the 29th of June, 1972. CAMS, the Confederation of Australian Motorsport, held an emergency meeting. They announced that Group E Series production touring cars would be retired for the 1973 racing season, replaced by Group C improved production. The homologation special arms race was over. Ford killed the XA GTHO Phase 4. Only 4 prototypes built. 3 survive. Holden killed the V8 Torana XU1. Chrysler cancelled the E55 Charger RT. Colin Adey, the engineer responsible, had already imported 336 340 cubic inch small block V8 engines from Detroit and 4-speed gearboxes to match. David Brown made the call. The V8 program was dead. The 336 engines went into road-spec Charger 770 SE luxury coupes. A collector's oddity today. Here's the thing. The supercar scare did not kill the Hemi 6. It killed the V8 Charger. It killed the Phase 4. It killed the V8 Torana. But the E49, the 6-cylinder E49, had already been homologated. The first 149 units had already been ordered by dealers. The E49 rolled onto Bathurst that October. The last of its kind. Chapter 6. Sovereignty. Before we tell you what happened next, we need to tell you what was already there. Because the Tonsley Park factory did not start with Chrysler. It did not start with the Valiant. It started, in a technical sense, with a saddler in the Adelaide Hills called Tobias John Martin Richards. His firm, T.J. Richards and Sons, built the first commercial motor body in Australia in March 1911, 6 years before Holden. By May 1938, T.J. Richards and Cote employed 3,280 workers, turnover near £2 million, 21 different body types. In September 1941, the company was renamed Richards Industries Limited. Its Keswick and Mile End South plants stopped building bodies for Chryslers and started building wing panels for the Bristol Beaufort bomber, fuselages for the Lancaster, centre sections for the CAC Wirraway trainer, cartouche boxes, cable drums, landmine casings, mountings for the 2-pounder anti-tank gun. By 1944, over 2,000 workers. When the war ended, the company did not put down the aircraft work. It expanded. From 1946 until May 1963, Richards, then Chrysler, operated a 1.88-acre plant inside the Finsbury Munitions Factory in Adelaide's northwest, under contract to the federal government. Building jet engine turbines for the English Electric Canberra bomber, main fuselages for the GAF Gendivik target drone, centre sections for the CAC Wingill trainer. Chrysler Australia was, during these years, the largest private aircraft contractor to the Australian government. Read that again. The same factory lineage, the same Adelaide workers. That built the Hemi Six in 1970, had built the aircraft that defended Australia against Japan in the Second World War. Remember this, because everything that happens next is happening to a factory that had, within living memory, built the aircraft that stopped the Japanese from getting to Adelaide. That factory, that lineage, that inheritance, was about to be sold to Tokyo. Chapter 7. Bathurst, the 7th of October 1972. The Hardy Ferodo 500, Mount Panorama, Bathurst, New South Wales. 6 Charger RTE49s on the grid. The lead car, driven by Doug Chivas and Damon Beck. Hemi orange paint, prepared at Chivas's own workshop in Sydney. 1 planned fuel stop. The Webbers tuned for economy on race pace. Directly behind, Leo Geoghegan, Chrysler Australia's development driver. At the front of the grid, Peter Brock in an LJ Torriner XU1, his first Bathurst, solo entry, 26 years old. Second row, Alan Moffat in the Ford Falcon G, THO Phase 3, 380 horsepower, the pre-race favourite. The flag drops at 10 in the morning. At one point, on the Conrod Straight in the rain, Chivas is reported to have clocked 234 kilometres per hour in the E49. 234 kilometres per hour. On Conrod. In the wet. 6 cylinders. But here's the problem. The Charger's brake pads cook. At the flag, Peter Brock wins in the Touran XU1 U1, his first Bathurst. Moffat second in the Phase 3. Chivas and Beck third in the E49. Geoghegan fourth in the second E49. The only time in Bathurst history that a Ford, a Holden and a Chrysler shared the podium. Chrysler Australia officially withdraws from touring car racing at the end of the 1972 season. Here's the kicker. The E49 that finished third at Bathurst was the fastest accelerating production car in Australia, verified by Wheels and Sports Car World, but it could not win a 500-mile race. The brake package was insufficient for the mountain. The Bathurst bogey was set that afternoon. 54 years later, at Shannon's auctions, the VH Charger E49 still lags the Falcon GTHO Phase 3 and the Torana XU1 in dollar terms. 149 E49, 21 of them with the A84 big tank option. 3 of the big tanks are believed to survive unrestored. The best. That never won. Chapter 8. Abandonment. 6 years pass. The Hemi. 6 family soldiers on. The 245 in the Taxi Valiant. The 265 in the CM Valiant Regal. Peter Angrave, now 24, promoted to production supervisor at Tonsley, 12,000 kilometres north-northeast. Detroit, Michigan, 13th of July, 1978. A conference room at the Ford World Headquarters on Michigan Avenue, Dearborn. Henry Ford II walks in. He fires the president of Ford Motor Company. The reason Ford gives, quoted in the Detroit News the next morning: "Sometimes you just don't like somebody." The man he fires, Lee Iacocca, 53 years old, Italian-American. Born Allentown, Pennsylvania, on the 15th of October, 1924. The son of a hot dog stand owner, rheumatic fever as a teenager kept him out of the Second World War. Industrial engineering at Lehigh University in 8 straight semesters. Masters in mechanical engineering at Princeton at 22. Chief architect of the Ford Mustang, launched April 1964, 1 million sold in 2 years. President of Ford Motor Company since December 1970. Ford's profit the year Iacocca was fired, $2 billion. Iacocca does not stay unemployed for long. 4 months later, in November 1978, John Ricardo, chairman and CEO of the Chrysler Corporation, hires Iacocca as president. Chrysler is in a state of collapse. 1979 full-year loss, $1.1 billion US. The worst annual loss ever recorded by an American company to that point. 1980 full-year loss, $1.71 billion US. The worst corporate loss in American history. Beaten 1 year later by the same company. Iacocca becomes chairman and CEO of Chrysler in September 1979. He announces a salary reduction program. Every executive takes a cut. His own salary is theatrically dropped to $1 a year. The cameras love it. The photograph of the bonus check runs in every newspaper in America. Here's the thing. His actual cash compensation for 1979, once you add the director's fees, the unpaid balance of his recruitment bonus, and the other incentives the Heritage Foundation later pulled out of the filings, was $360,000 US. The $1 was theatre. On the 7th of September 1979, Iacocca walks into the United States Treasury and asks for a loan guarantee of $1.5 billion. 20th of December 1979, the Chrysler Corporation Loan Guarantee Act passes both houses of Congress. 7th of January 1980, President Jimmy Carter signs it into law. The condition: Chrysler must raise $2 billion in non-federal concessions, including by selling assets. Chrysler, Europe is sold to Peugeot for a nominal $1 US. 200,000 jobs across France and Britain change hands overnight. Australia is next. Since 1971, Chrysler Corporation had owned a 15% stake in Mitsubishi Motors Corporation. The two companies were partners already. In 1979, even before Iacocca was confirmed as chairman, Mitsubishi Motors Corporation and Mitsubishi Corporation each acquired a 1/6 stake in Chrysler Australia. 27 million Australian dollars combined. On the 30th of April, 1980, the two Mitsubishi entities paid Chrysler a further $52 million for the remaining 65%. Total deal, 79.4 million Australian dollars. Mitsubishi now owned 98.9% of Chrysler Australia. The Canberra Times, 1st of May 1980. Front page, $80 million takeover of Chrysler. Mitsubishi joins the Big Three. The Age, 1st of May 1980. Chrysler sold for a song. Peter Angrave, now 28, on the QA floor at Tonsley, watching the Pentastar come down. Chapter 9. The Last Bastard. The chairman of Mitsubishi Motors Corporation in Tokyo, when Adelaide changed flags, was a man named Tomio Kubo. Kubo was born on the 16th of November 1908 in Nagasaki Prefecture. He was 71 years old on the day of the acquisition. He graduated from the aeronautical section of the Faculty of Engineering at Tokyo Imperial University in 1931. 4 years junior to Jiro Horikoshi, the designer of the A6M0, he joined Mitsubishi Aircraft. He was posted to the Nagoya Works. His first major project, first flight November 1939, was the Mitsubishi Ki-46, codename Dyna. A twin-engine reconnaissance aircraft for the Imperial Japanese Army, 1742 built, one of the fastest, most aerodynamically refined military aircraft of the Second World War. Kubo's Ki-46s flew reconnaissance over the northern coasts of Australia during the war. Read that again. The aircraft designed by Tomio Kubo flew reconnaissance over the same coast the Canberra bombers built by Chrysler Australia at Finsbury were built to defend. Then, in 1970, Mitsubishi Motors Corporation was formed as an automotive spin-off of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. Kubo, the aircraft engineer, rose to be its chairman by June 1979. The Japan Automotive Hall of Fame later inducted Kubo in 2009, citing his ability, and I quote, with sophisticated engineering techniques accumulated through aircraft development. The aircraft engineer who designed the Ki-46 was the man whose company now owned Tonsley Park. Here's the thing. Mitsubishi did not immediately kill the Valiant. For 16 months, Tonsley kept building the Chrysler Valiant CM sedan alongside the Mitsubishi-designed Sigma. The Valiant had 97% local content. The tooling had been fully amortised for a decade. Australian local content rules under the Fraser government required a minimum locally manufactured passenger vehicle in the range. The Valiant was profitable at any volume. But the rules were about to change. And on the 28th of August, 1981, the last Australian Valiant rolled off the Tonsley Park assembly line, a plain white CM sedan, the 565,338th Valiant, the 16,005th CM 4-litre Hemi Six 3-speed automatic, bench seat, column shift, not an E49, not a six-pack, not a Charger, not a Legend, a taxi. The car was driven off the line by David Brown, the former Chrysler Australia CEO called out of retirement for the moment, and presented to Purnell Brothers of Bankstown, the Sydney dealership that had sold more Valiants and Regals than any other dealer in Australia. Over 20,000 cars in the dealership's history. The second last Valiant off the line that same day was raffled to the 3,000 Tonsley workers. Tickets, $2 each. The men on the day shift on the 28th of August 1981 gathered around the last Valiant as it rolled to the end of the line. They did not cheer. They did not clap. Peter Angrave, apprenticed in 1970, now 31, 11 years on the line, put his hand on the bonnet. He said nothing. Somewhere on the line that morning, after the last car had left the assembly hall, before it was driven onto the truck to Bankstown, an anonymous line worker took a scribe and attached into the sound-deadening compound beneath the boot floor carpet 2 words, LASTBARSTARRD. Spelling error included. The etching has never been removed. It survives, still legible, on the surviving car today. The line worker was never identified. He is, in the industrial heritage history of Australian manufacturing, the anonymous ghost of Tonsley Park. Chapter 10. The Silent Factory. Mitsubishi kept Tonsley going. 27 more years. The Sigma evolved into the Magna in 1985, engineered by the same ex-Chrysler engineering team that had built the Hemi Six. The Magna evolved into the Verada. The Verada into the 380. Peter Angrave stayed, promoted from QA to production engineering to senior management. Bob Ormsby in the stamping plant quality section. more than 36 years by the end. Beck Durbidge in the paint shop, 30 years old, working at the plant her parents had met at, back when Chrysler was the name on the sign. Carol Rollins in the paint shop, and her twin sister Anne Regnier on the same line. Chris Thompson, senior leader trainer on the metal line, 5 children at home. Andrew Code in the press shop. Tom DiVittorio in body build, the 3rd generation of his family at the factory, 50 years of families, 27 years of Mitsubishi. One line. Then on the 5th of February 2008, in the canteen of the Tonsley Park Assembly Hall, MMAL President and CEO Rob McAneary stood on a low stage. He held a single sheet of A4 paper. He read the shutdown recommendation aloud. The MMC board in Tokyo had approved it that morning, Adelaide time. His words, not paraphrased, from John Carey's Finding Closure feature for Wheels magazine, May 2008. It was my call, and that we should do it as quickly as we possibly can, and we shouldn't put the people through any more anxiety and stress than they've been going through. And the only thing we should be interested in from this point on is the people. McAneary broke down. In front of 1,200 workers, the workers applauded him. Read that again. The workers applauded the executive who was closing their factory. Carol Rollins in the paint shop that morning told Carey, "I don't often see men cry." Andrew Code in the press shop. It was a bit like a funeral, quite horrible really. Chris Thompson, senior leader trainer, 24 years on the metal line. If quality sold, we'd still be in business. And on the industry itself, we're good at digging stuff up and then buying it back when it's been turned into something else, somewhere else. Scott Hann, vehicle assembly. It's like being around someone dying a long, slow, painful death. It'll almost be a relief when it happens. Sally Forrestall, grandmother of 5, on the trim line. Peter Ryan, Mark Scott, Tony Nash, Greg Shepard on the final line. It's only a box. On the 27th of March 2008, the last Mitsubishi 380, a platinum silver sedan, rolled off the same Tonsley Park line that had built the Charger E49. 930 workers made redundant that morning. Peter Angrave, 58, 38 years on the floor, was one of them. Beck Durbidge, in the paint shop, watched the last body come through. She was in tears. "The people bring you to work," she told Carey. "They're your family. Then, I want to get into something that's not going to close down." The gates were padlocked that afternoon. Chapter 11. The Innovation District, 2026. Walk in through the same gate Menzies walked through on the 2nd of October, 1964. The Mitsubishi main assembly building has been preserved. The sawtooth roof still stands. The columns still stand. The canopy still stands. Adaptively reused by Woods Bagot and Trident T architects. 90,000 tonnes of embodied carbon saved by retention. Underneath the roof, the Sustainable Industries Education Centre, a $120 million TAFE, South Australia facility, teaches plumbing and carpentry. Flinders University College of Science and Engineering teaches computer science under the same rafters that watched 290,000 Sigmas roll out, Siemens Energy, Zeiss, Tesla, MicroX, Sage Automation, BAE Systems. The 88-room Mantra Tonsley Hotel opened in 2024. 2,000 workers, 8,500 students a year. More people work at Tonsley now than worked there when Mitsubishi closed it. But there is no plaque for the Hemi Six, no plaque for the Charger, no plaque for the E49, no plaque for the Bristol Beaufort wing panels Richards Industries built in 1944. No plaque for the Canberra bomber turbines Chrysler made at Finsbury for the Royal Australian Air Force. No plaque for Peter Angrave's 38 years. No plaque for Carol Rollins. No plaque for Chris Thompson. No plaque for the last bastard etcher. 80 kilometres northeast of the Tonsley Gate at the National Motor Museum at Birdwood in the Adelaide Hills sits a Hemi orange Charger RTE 49. Under the bonnet, 265 cubic inches, triple 45mm DCOE Webers. The manifold tuned by John Ellis in Bologna. Genuine day one part numbers ending 55, 55, 56. Alongside it, in the museum's engine gallery, sits an original Chrysler 245 Hemi prototype engine and a 265 cutaway. Every Sunday the car park is full, Hemi orange paint catching the sun. Men in their 70s showing their grandsons. The V salute at the windscreen of every passing Charger. Hey Charger, the unbelievable can happen to you. Lesson 1. Australian engineering beat the world. Adelaide designed the Hemi Six from a clean sheet in 1967. Walt McPherson and Mike Stacey's team. On a plant that had built Canberra bomber turbines 20 years earlier for the Royal Australian Air Force. In 5 years, from 1967 to 1972, they produced 302 horsepower from 6 cylinders. On triple Weber carburettors tuned in Bologna by John Ellis. On 10:1 compression. On an Adelaide cast crankshaft. The verdict is on the record. Sports Car World, October 1972. Wheels Magazine, November 1972. 0 to 100 miles per hour in 14.1 seconds. An Australian straight six beat the Ford Falcon GTHO Phase 3 V8, beat the Porsche 911 S Flat Six. On a stopwatch, in front of witnesses, on motoring press timing gear. Nobody in Detroit could have built the Hemi Six. Nobody in Detroit did. The engineering excellence was real. The engineering excellence is documented in every road test archive in the country, and the engineering excellence, this is the point, did not save the factory. Lesson 2. Corporate abandonment kills national industry. Chrysler Australia was never master of its own fate. When Highland Park lost $1.1 billion in 1979 and $1.71 billion in 1980, Adelaide was a line item on Lee Iacocca's asset disposal spreadsheet. Chrysler Europe went to Peugeot for a nominal $1. Chrysler Australia went to Mitsubishi for 79.4 million Australian dollars. The Hemi Six did not matter to that decision. The Bathurst near miss did not matter. The V salute did not matter. The 149 E49s did not matter. The Bristol Beaufort wing panels the same factory had built in 1944 to defeat Japan did not matter either. The Canberra bomber turbines did not matter. Sir Sterling Moss's endorsement did not matter. John Ellis's 4 months in Bologna did not matter. Foreign-owned subsidiaries do not decide their own death. Highland Park did. Tokyo did. Adelaide did not. And what Tokyo did next, killing the Valiant 16 months later on the 28th of August 1981, was the mathematically inevitable second act of a deal signed on the 30th of April 1980. The E49 died on the 30th of April 1980, not on the 28th of August 1981. The Valiant was already dead. It just took 16 months for anyone to say so out loud. Lesson 3. Factories die, legends don't. Tonsley Park is a university campus now. The main assembly building is a public atrium. Flinders University teaches computer science under the sawtooth roof where Mike Stacey's team built the Hemi Six. TAFE South Australia teaches plumbing where the paint shop used to be. Beck Durbidge, if she wanted to, could enrol in a horticulture course in the building where she used to spray Hemi orange in 1995. 2,000 workers, 8,500 students a year. But out at Birdwood, on a Sunday, the Hemi orange E49 sits with its bonnet up, triple Webers, 302 horsepower, from a 6. And the men in their 70s show their grandsons. This is the car that beat the V8s. Peter Angrave's line, 40 years on the factory floor, quoted in John Carey's Finding Closure feature for Wheels magazine, May 2008. The company has given us an education. It's like a big university. Now it literally is. The engine survives. The E49 survives. The country that built them is somewhere else. She's a beauty.